There are some things that you can do to stay warm while winter camping that don't cost a cent and you don't have to spoon with your buddy. What are they? Stay tuned and find out. Hello friends, this is Jeremy with Midwest Backpacker. Hey, if you like backpacking, camping, outdoor adventure, and gear videos, that is what this channel is all about. I hope that you'll consider hitting that subscribe button. And I am kicking off a 4-part series on winter camping. So this is the first one. If you want to see when the next 3 videos are released, hit that bell notification and they will notify you as soon as they are released. Hey, it's getting cold outside and I'm actually excited about it because winter camping is actually one of the most unique and special times of the year to go camping. Now, you may consider cold something different than I do. I live in Minnesota. I consider cold to be sub-zero. Now, I've camped out in temperatures as cold as negative 47 degrees. You may be watching me from a warmer climate, say Kentucky, where you consider 32 degrees to be cold.
And it's cold!
What? But cold is cold, and I have 5 tips that are going to help you stay warm while winter camping. Now, I'm not going to talk about having a warm sleeping bag or a warm sleeping pad or a good tent or special gear for winter camping. Of course, you need those. But what I'm going to talk about are 5 choices or 5 decisions that you can make that will help keep you warm. Number 1 is staying dry. I have it at number 1 for a reason because I think it's the most important thing that you can do to stay warm. If you get wet or moist in the winter, it's going to suck your body heat right out of you. You know, whether that be from sweating or it be from snow or rain, if you get wet in the winter, not only is it uncomfortable, but it can be dangerous or even deadly. So while I've camped at negative 47 degrees, the coldest I have ever been while backpacking and camping was actually only at 35 degrees. I was in Arkansas hiking on the Ozark Highland Trail. You can see a link to that video up here in the cards. But I was soaked to the bone in rain at just barely above freezing, and I was shivering and really close to being hypothermic. So whatever you do, stay dry. One of the best ways to stay dry is to layer your clothing. You know, don't wear that big parka out there. What you want to do is you want to have layers, and the layer against your skin is called the base layer. This layer should be some sort of material that dries quickly and hopefully pulls that moisture away from your body. My preference for a base layer is a merino wool, and a little cheaper option is just a polyester type of clothing. So the next layer is your mid layer. You may want to have a couple layers, and this is really the insulating layer, whether that be a fleece, whether that be wool, whether that be down. You might have to wear a couple layers to keep you warm. The outside is a shell. This would be like a raincoat or something that is water resistant or waterproof. And if it's raining or if it's snowing, that will keep your mid layer dry. Now, an important thing and a benefit of layering is when you are walking to camp or you're gathering firewood or doing something that is going to be a good workout, take off some layers. If you take out that shell, take off maybe even your mid layer, it'll help keep you cool and it'll prevent you from sweating. That leads to the next point, is that you need to chill out to stay warm. Seems backwards, right? But like I said, you need to stay dry. So you need to not sweat. And that may mean that you need to allow more time when you're hiking into your campsite. So allow more time, get there a little bit earlier, hike slower, take breaks. As painful as it is for me to hike slow and take breaks, you have to do it in the winter, because if you work up that sweat before you even get to camp, you're going to be wet and you're going to be cold once you sit down and relax. But once you get to camp, you know you can't relax right away. You have to go get firewood. You have to process that firewood. So if you relax and chill out, take your time, don't be in a rush, hopefully it'll prevent you from getting wet and you'll stay warm. Footwear is super important. You need to have some insulated boots that are waterproof. And a lot of times when you go winter camping, it may not be 10 below out. It may be 20 degrees and right around freezing, and you may have some melting snow. That wet snow can get your boots wet really quick, or even some mud around the campfire. So you want some waterproof boots to keep your feet dry and warm. And if there is a lot of snow, when we go backpacking in Minnesota here, sometimes it can be deep snow. If you are in deep snow, make sure that you have something that is going to keep your legs dry as well as your feet. So a couple years ago, I went winter camping with some friends, and we went out. We were going to hike 5 miles to our campsite out on the Superior Hiking Trail. The problem is the trail that we were going to go hiking on, no one had hiked on it yet. And the snow was about 3 feet deep. Now, we had snowshoes, but when you have a lot of weight on your back for camping, the snowshoes were inadequate and we were sinking and post-holing. And the problem is I didn't have any gaiters or anything above my boots. So when I'm post-holing through the snow, I was getting a layer of snow and ice on top of my boots, and that moisture would get between my pant and my boot. And by the time I got to camp, I just had an ice ring around my calves. And of course, as I set up for camp, we had a campfire, but my pants were just soaked. And my feet were the coldest they have ever been while camping. So make sure that you're keeping your feet warm and dry, as well as up your pant leg if the snow is deeper. Now, when you go to bed, I don't care if you think that your socks are dry. You need to always, always, always change your socks when you get into your sleeping bag. Because if they are wool or whatever material, they're going to feel like they're dry to you, but they aren't. There's a little bit of moisture in there, and that moisture is going to make your feet cold. So bring along either a big, fluffy, warm pair of socks, or I am actually going to be getting some down socks, where only time I wear them is inside my sleeping bag. So keep your feet warm and everybody's happy. Number 2 is prioritize your campfire. Typically in the spring and the summer and the fall, when I get to camp, I take off my backpack, and first thing I set up my hammock or my tent and get my sleeping arrangements all set up. But in the winter, you need to change that priority. First thing when you get to camp is, of course, you locate the campfire ring, but you go gather your firewood from the woods while it's still daylight out. And you pull it all back to the campsite and you look at the pile, and I guarantee you don't have enough firewood. Go get more firewood. Double the size of that firewood pile. Because in the winter, you're going to be burning a campfire for a long time, and you're going to burn through that wood quickly, and you don't want to have to go to bed early just because you run out of firewood. And it's always nice to have some wood ready, so when you wake up in the morning when it's going to be the coldest time of the day, you have some firewood ready and you can build a fire without gathering more firewood. It might still be dark, so you'll have that firewood ready, and you can warm up in the morning around the campfire. Now, there are 3 ways that you can stay warm from a campfire. It isn't just sitting by the campfire. You can get warm if you're cold by going out and gathering the firewood. And then if you're still cold, processing the firewood, cutting it or splitting it That'll warm you up. And then finally, you can relax next to that nice warm campfire. Number 3 is don't go to bed cold or hungry. A lot of people, when they go winter camping, say, "Ooh, I'm cold. I'm going to go get my sleeping bag and that'll warm me right up." Why am I talking like I'm from Kentucky? You don't want to go to your sleeping bag when you're cold. Your sleeping bag is just an insulator. It's not a heat generator. The thing that generates the heat is your body. So if your body's cold, it goes in the insulated area. It's going to take a long time for it to warm up. It may never warm up. So you need to get your body warm before you get in your sleeping bag, either by the campfire, or if you can't build a campfire, if it's cold and wet out, kind of like on that Ozark Highland trip, you need to get your blood flowing. Whether that be doing jumping jacks, running around, doing something, get it so you can feel all your fingers and your toes and your body's nice and warm, and then slip into that sleeping bag and hopefully that you'll stay warm. And staying warm, even outside of your sleeping bag, should be a priority. Because if you do something where you're just out goofing around in the woods and getting cold, it's a lot harder to get warm than it is to stay warm. So stay warm either by the campfire, just kind of paying attention. Am I getting cold? Oh, I'm going to go by the campfire, or I'm going to go cut some firewood. That'll warm you up and stay warm. The other thing is don't go to bed hungry. You are going to need calories to keep you warm. And it's good to eat foods, high calorie foods that have oil in them, like a peanut butter, a bacon. Bacon. Did somebody say bacon? Yes, eat bacon. And that will help you stay warm. Those calories are going to keep you warm. And make sure that you don't eat something that may upset your stomach. You don't want to eat half a bottle of salsa if you don't usually eat salsa, because you'll be warm when you go to bed, but if your stomach's upset, it's going to keep you from sleeping. Number 4 is campsite selection. Now, when we went out winter camping in the Boundary Waters canoe area, we walked over a frozen lake, and it was windy out. So we had to pay attention to which way the wind direction was, and we picked a campsite on the opposite side of the lake as the wind. So the land and the trees were cutting down that wind. Wind chill is real, folks. Whether that be while you're around the campfire, if you have that cold blowing wind, or even the wind blowing against your rain fly, it definitely makes a difference in how warm you are. Now, if you're in a more typical wooded setting in the woods, oftentimes campsites are down near a water source. And a water source is often a creek that's down in a valley. Well, at the bottom of that valley, it's usually cooler, which is nice in the summer, right? But in the winter, you don't want that cool spot. And, if that creek isn't frozen, it's also going to be more moist down there. And that moisture is going to keep you cool, and it's going to be harder to warm up. So try to get up out of that valley, up on the hill a little bit, and you'll stay a little bit warmer. And while you're at your campsite in the winter, you want to look even more importantly at the branches and the ice that are on the trees. Because in the summer, you look for the trees and the branches that may fall on your tent, called a widowmaker. But in the winter, it's even more important because they're all weighed down with that snow and that ice, and you never know when a branch is going to crack off. Number 5 is to manage your liquids. Now, you want to stay hydrated in the winter. A lot of people don't drink enough water, but you want to cut down on how much you're drinking a couple hours before going to bed. It's just like having a toddler or having a puppy. A couple hours before going to bed, stop drinking as much water or whatever you're drinking. And the obvious is you don't want to have to get up in the middle of the night when you're laying in your nice, warm, fuzzy sleeping bag to go out in the cold, cold weather and pee. And then you have to get back in your sleeping bag and try to warm back up and try falling back asleep. It's just not a lot of fun. But what a lot of people don't think about is if you have a full bladder, it's taking energy for your body to try keeping that urine in your bladder warm. And if it's taking energy to do that, you have less energy to keep your whole body warm. So you want to keep an empty bladder to keep your body warm. Hey, thanks for watching. Like I said, this is Midwest Backpacker. I do backpacking, camping, outdoor adventure, gear videos. Go ahead and hit subscribe. Check me out on Facebook and Instagram. Next week, I am going to be doing a video on winter camping and specifically 5 hacks that will keep you from freezing, keep your food from freezing, keep your water from freezing. So if you hit that bell notification, they'll tell you when I put out that video. But thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. We'll see you next week. And if not, hopefully I will see you out on the trail.